Mark Rogers TV, Week 11 of our college football predictions. Last week at 12-3, straight up 8-7 against the spread. We would like to do better than that. In fact, 60% against the spread is the goal. Again, 8-7 last week. We missed on our confidence pick. We went with Arizona plus 6.5 against UCLA, and Arizona couldn't convert a first and goal late to help us out there. So missed our confidence pick, and we've got no confidence picks against the spread this week. We have little confidence in our confidence picks as of late. Coming into the season at 75-40, and we're 11-12 this year in our confidence picks against the spread. All right, let's run it down, starting with undefeated Florida State hosting Virginia. Florida State has not won a blowout game other than the subdivision team that they played, whoever that was, in week 2 after the Oklahoma State game. And then they won over Wake Forest 43-3. Other than that, close games against everybody across the board. And this time, though, Florida State, despite some nagging injuries to some superior players like Terrence Smith, they're all ACC linebacker. Mario Pender probably missing this game as well. We expect Florida State to drill Virginia. The Cavs are in a tailspin. This game's in Tallahassee. Florida State rolls in the second half. They break free from Virginia and win it by more than 20. Syracuse and Duke picking an upset here. The Blue Devils do a lot with a little at 7-1. David Cutcliffe, credit him coming off that ACC championship game appearance last year, taking Johnny Manziel to the last few minutes before succumbing to Texas A&M. Duke, though, loses at Syracuse. I know that the Orange are mighty deficient when it comes to offensive play, but they're a pretty strong football team in the trenches. We like Syracuse to beat Duke, so we'll take Syracuse plus the 4 points as well. Georgia Tech, North Carolina State, as we stay in the ACC. North Carolina State, take the 4 points. Georgia Tech wins the game. Take the Wolfpack at home plus the 4 points. Couple no-line games in the SEC with Mississippi State and Ole Miss taking the bye week. Mississippi State taking on UT Martin, and Presbyterian, the matchup for Ole Miss. Both teams win. There is no line. Okay, let's stay in the SEC for Auburn-Texas A&M. This one is difficult for me to choose here. 23 points with the way the Tigers are playing and with the way the Aggies are playing. Seems like a comfortable point spread. And Auburn's at home in this one on the Plains. I think they'll cover. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. Not because it's going to be a close game, but just because once that score gets to 3 touchdowns late in the game, who knows what's going to happen. Texas A&M throws the ball all over the place. They looked miserable, though, trying to score points against the Warhawks of Louisiana Monroe. Only 21 points on the board with Kyle Allen, the heralded freshman quarterback. Kenny Hill again out this week, so we like Auburn to roll late in this one and cover 23 against Texas A&M. Let's step into the Big Ten with Wisconsin-Purdue. The Badgers looking for a date with Nebraska 2 weeks from now. That will be huge in the Big Ten Western Division. For now, they've got to take care of a improving Purdue outfit in West Lafayette. Purdue a 17-point underdog. We like the Badgers to roll in this one, although we do remember Wisconsin going on the road and losing to Northwestern. Again, Purdue's been much more competitive this year than they have been in the previous 2 seasons. Beat Illinois, played some decent teams pretty close. Michigan State, that was a touchdown game with a possession left. They took Minnesota to the wire, and Purdue's playing much better football. They lose their top wide receiver for this game, though, and for the rest of the season. So Badgers win it, and they lay the 17 points. Okay, back in the SEC for a pivotal game. This isn't a sexy matchup, especially with the way the Georgia Bulldogs performed against Florida last week. Going to Kentucky, we like Georgia to bounce back. They have to win this game to stay in the Eastern Division race. They're a game back of Mizzou. Plus, Georgia's got the date with Auburn, which is almost certainly a loss, probably a 20% winning percentage factor there for Georgia. Let's stay with this one. They go on the road, they go to Kentucky, they get the job done, but we like the Wildcats with the points, 10.5 points for Kentucky at home. Remember the effort that they put up against the number 1 team in the country a couple weeks ago against Mississippi State. All right, Big 12 matchup, interesting one. in Austin with West Virginia in town. The Mountaineers coming off a near miss against TCU, should have won that game. Had a 9-point lead in the fourth quarter, had the ball with 3.5 minutes left, got too conservative in that one. They go on the road to Texas. That's a tough trip for the Mountaineers, but we like West Virginia with the passing offense and with the superior playmakers that they've got over Texas. The Longhorns still challenged, still very offensively challenged. So West Virginia wins and they cover 3. Stay in the Big 12 for these two huge games. Okay, Kansas State and TCU. Check out our preview with Ty Berger of Bring on the Cats. It's a good one, and he really breaks down Kansas State personnel, recruiting, and the entire program philosophy. Kansas State's a 6.5-point underdog at TCU. The Wildcats are the only undefeated team in conference play with one loss against the Auburn Tigers. Of course, they're 6-7 in the country, looking for the college football playoff berth, and they'll get a huge boost, the winner of this game, toward that end. We like Kansas State. Yes, TCU's got more athletes. They look flashier. They score more points. I really like Kansas State. I just got a hunch about this one. With the Wildcats going to Oklahoma, they got it done there. They get it done continuously. They continue to play fundamental football, not make mistakes. TCU will make some mistakes in this game, and Kansas State's going to be there for a narrow victory. So definitely take the Wildcats plus the 6.5. Kansas State wins it outright upset. Oklahoma and Baylor. Vegas likes Oklahoma. They were the preseason favorite in the conference. They've lost 2 very tough ball games. Baylor, of course, with one loss, still in the college football playoff running. 6-point underdog at Oklahoma. I like the Sooners to win. They're a much more balanced team offensively and defensively, can run the football. Baylor is going to be challenged in the secondary in this one, but I like the Bears plus the 6 points. This is just too many points for a team that can score like Baylor. So I like Oklahoma winning, but Baylor plus the 6 points here. UCLA goes to Washington. The Bruins have struggled on the road. Barely won at Cal, barely won at Colorado. 2 marginal football teams, especially the Buffs. Now they go to Washington, and the Huskies are serious on defense. They've got some of the best linebackers in the country, headed up by Shaq Thompson, that is. Thinking back to Jacques Robinson, remember his running days at the tailback position for the Huskies back in the 80s. Anyway, Washington, we like the Huskies at home to cover 6.5 points. UCLA escapes. They're a better team. They escape with the win. Brett Hundley at quarterbacks made some mistakes, but UCLA's just a better football team start to finish, but have been much different. Everybody's better at home than on the road, but UCLA, disappointing showings on the road. They get it done at Washington and take the Huskies plus 6.5 points. 2 other huge games in the Pac-12. National scale here, 9-10 in the country. Notre Dame going to the desert to take on Arizona State. The Sun Devils have performed extremely well on defense against the score, meaning they held Stanford to 10. They held Utah last week in a huge win in overtime to 16 points. They've held down some good offenses, but the really good offenses, no. 62 against UCLA, and the big number of 34 against USC. They won it on the Hail Mary. Notre Dame could be undefeated. If this team could go to Tallahassee and basically go toe-to-toe and outplay Florida State, I like Notre Dame to go to Arizona State. Don't think that they'll be intimidated by the Sun Devils in the desert. Notre Dame plus 2.5 with Everett Golson at quarterback making big plays in the fourth quarter. Take it over Arizona State. So take ND plus the 2.5, and they win it outright. So I've got, wow, that's 2 straight up upsets with, K-State a 6.5-point dog winning, Notre Dame a 2.5-point dog winning. Oregon, Utah, I like what Utah's doing. Very strong football team, very strong defensive football team. They'll give Oregon a big challenge. The Ducks are really putting down the throttle here in recent weeks, and I like Oregon. Now, don't jump the gun on this point spread, because I like Utah to keep it close, but late touchdowns will make the difference in the point spread. Oregon wins, and they cover 8.5 points, but it's a really good game. So Oregon wins this thing by 10 or 14 points, but they do it with late touchdowns like they typically do. in very close games, i.e. the Cal game this year that they won eventually by 17 points. So close game till the fourth quarter. Oregon pulls away, cover the 8.5. We stay in the Pac-12 with Arizona, Colorado. The Wildcats delivered the blow by UCLA last week. They're out of the playoff situation, but still in it in the Pac-12 South. They host Colorado, the Buffaloes. Look at the scores and the way the games have been played for the Buffaloes. They're improving. They've gotten much better. This game, difficult to tell. The 17 points is a fair spread, but we like Colorado to keep it just about that close. So take the Buffs plus the 17. Arizona wins it. Then the two huge games on the night schedule with Alabama going to LSU. The Tide a big 6.5-point favorite. We definitely understand it. Most people think that Alabama is the best team in the country when they're kicking on all cylinders. LSU deficient in the passing game. They can't throw it. Anthony Jennings has not completed more than 13 passes in a game this year. Okay, I think the formula is for LSU to hit on some big plays in the passing game. He can go like 8 for 25, and if he hits on 3 or 4 big ones that set up field goals, score points, or flip the field, that's key for LSU. We saw the Tigers pound Ole Miss at home between the tackles with Leonard Fournette and Kenny Hilliard, Terrence McGee in that game as well. So I like LSU to cover 6.5, but Bama wins it late. Amari Cooper making plays. TJ Yeldon back off an injury. He should be okay. Bama, I just trust the offensive personnel and Nick Saban winning a big game here. So Bama wins. 6.5 seems like a little bit much, but of course it could be a tie game and Bama wins on a touchdown and that blows the 6.5. But still, 6.5, a little too strong, like LSU at home in Death Valley with 6.5 points. And then finally, in East Lansing, you got Michigan State, you got Ohio State. I think the Buckeyes have a more talented roster. Next season, this could be a dynamic football team, maybe the best in college football. For right now, though, Connor Cook will make plays in the fourth quarter. I trust him more than JT Barrett. Barrett, we saw. I'm not going to blame the Virginia Tech situation on him. It was a new defensive setup that Urban Meyer did not anticipate. The offensive line was overwhelmed by numbers. The wide receivers didn't make plays. But the Penn State performance by JT Barrett, 74 yards passing, a key pick early in the second half, concerns me for the Buckeyes. Michigan State is a known factor across the board. The defense is not as good as it was last year, but it's still extremely good. One of the top 10 defenses, not statistically, not talking stats, talking about real football. One of the 10 best defenses in college football. Michigan State gets it done, but it's razor tight. Connor Cook makes the throws in the fourth quarter and pulls this one out over Ohio State. So take Michigan State, Ohio State plus the 3.5. Now, shoot, Michigan State could be down by 3 and score the touchdown and win by 4, but that's the way it is. I got to take the Buckeyes plus the 3.5 points there with the Spartans winning and moving on to the Big Ten championship game. All right, those are my picks. I want to hear from you. Very rarely does anybody send their picks in. I get pretty decent numbers on views on these videos at times, but I want to hear from you. Would love to hear what you have to say about the big games coming up this week. Bama, LSU, Michigan State, Ohio State, and there's the ton in the Pac-12 and the Big 12 as well that will decide where we stand for this college football playoff going forward. Need to hear from you right now on Mark Rogers TV.